finally, according to a new survey, half of Americans said that they've already have a conversation survival game plan for the holidays. Now they just have to decide between indica and sativa.
Hey, it's a joke about the pot. I get it. How about that? Yeah, that's your plan. That's your plan for dealing with your family is how badly are you going to get stoned? Thank you. Thank you, late-night TV jokesters. Seth Meyers with what is passing for the moment as comedy. Yeah, we bring this up, and by the way, it is the Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka sitting in for my buddy Chris Plant on this Thanksgiving Eve. God willing, I'll be back on Friday, and we'll have even more fun to talk about. But we talked about this earlier. I got up very early this morning to prep for the show, and there is so much. We never get to all of it. But there was so much, and I happened to turn on the CNN to see what was kind of confusing. And it was a discussion between CNN anchor Audie Cornish and somebody from the Wall Street Journal named Ellen Gamerman. And they were talking about the cousin walk. And they're talking about the marijuana during the holidays. This really caught my attention. And I thought, wait a minute, what is CNN doing here? Now, look, we all know alcohol has issues. But we also know that there are reports that say alcohol has some benefits if you don't overuse it, abuse it, etc. And you shouldn't be driving while under the effects of alcohol. But I certainly am dubious of anyone who's pushing cannabis as a replacement for alcohol, especially as a coping medicine, as a coping device for the upcoming holidays. Just to check out a little bit of what was going on between CNN anchor Audie Cornish and the CNN faithful today.
Okay, being with your family for the holidays can be, let's face it, overwhelming. So that's why the cousin walk has always been an excuse to, step away, come back in better spirits. Thanksgiving is a time of family and gratitude. For the moments when it's tense, argument-filled, or a venue for invasive questions about your love life, the cannabis industry has an answer. What started as a secret trip to smoke pot before dinner has mushroomed into a full-blown commercial holiday. Behold the cousin walk.
The cousin walk. Well, you sneak out, I guess, to maybe get the munchies because you don't like the cooking. This is wild. The cousin walk. I didn't know about the cousin walk. Did I miss the cousin walk? We used to gather as a family on the south side of Chicago with the various cousins. We'd be at Aunt Cookie's house, Aunt Cookie and Uncle Bill. And maybe we went out to drink a beer, but I didn't know about that. I didn't know it was called the cousin walk. Now it's the cousin walk because I guess it involves marijuana. Wall Street Journal reporter, as I mentioned, Ellen Gamerman was part of this, talking about the acceptance of marijuana.
We've seen some mainstream brands starting to cautiously embrace it, just as they have 420, the big pot celebration holiday. And it's now the second biggest day, the day before Thanksgiving is the second biggest day for pot sales of the year.
Second biggest day for pot sales? I'd like to see some real hard data on this. I know that there are 26 plus states that have legalized recreational use of marijuana, and many who have legalized medicinal use. I'm a huge supporter of medicinal marijuana. I happen to have a niece who requires a patch to prevent her from having seizures. She's had a miraculous decade plus since, as a young child, she started utilizing medicinal marijuana. But I'm not a big fan of recreational, just because I don't think we know enough. We don't know who's in the car driving stoned. I don't think we have enough in terms of scientific data to say, oh, look at that person right there. They're stoned. And I also think there still are places where people are buying marijuana that are not legally licensed. If you ever get off the train going into New York City, you pop out of Penn Station, you're hit with a cloud in some neighborhoods. You get a contact high. And those aren't all legally licensed marijuana stores in the city. There's a whole bunch that just popped up and the city's not enforcing it. So I'm not trying to be a stuck-up sticky beak on this, but I do think there's an issue that we don't fully understand. So I question Ms. Gamerman's statistics on this, the second biggest pot sales day of the year. I'd like to know. The conversation continued. Audie Cornish on CNN talking about how people will be deploying the bud on Thanksgiving.
We're showing pictures of bud here, but the truth is this is not how people are going to be basically deploying this for this holiday. And you're also reporting that it's now being incorporated into the Thanksgiving meal.
Yeah, that's true. There are all kinds of tinctures and different butters and oils, and so it can go into the turkey itself. You could have a plate of regular stuffing, a plate of cannabis stuffing. You might have THC beverages and the wine glasses. So it really can run the gamut, although the purists say the best way for bonding is to pass around a joint still.
The best way for bonding with your family at Thanksgiving? No, it's not to bring out the photo album and talk about the time that Uncle Bill got hit in the face with a water balloon at the July 4th picnic. No, that's not the best way for bonding. It's to pass around a joint. Are we watching a cannabis infomercial on CNN? This really made me step back. This was 6:30 this morning, 6:25 this morning. I'm sitting there going, really? Really, CNN? I wonder if the CNN founder, Ted Turner, would have had anything to say about this. Absolutely stunning to me. Stunning, stunning, stunning. There was more. Audie Cornish continued with this discussion. As I said, I kind of feel like it's the infomercial for pot.
Basically, the idea is awkward relatives, return ready to eat. I've heard that stone guests are the best guests, that they're first to volunteer to run errands. I dispute this.
The people who really embrace this as a way of handling the holidays say, would you rather return to a table full of drunk relatives or stoned relatives? And they argue the stoned ones will be a lot more chill.
Yeah. Would you rather return? This is the question in your family. Would you rather return to a table full of stoned family members or of drunk family members? And what about those who are strunk or droned, as we used to call it back in the day, who may be a combination of both? This does seem to be really bizarre. It really seems to wander away from journalism and kind of dip into the advocacy arena. If she has the facts and the stats on the sale dates and the sale numbers ahead of Thanksgiving for marijuana, I think maybe the government should put those out so we could actually see the retail data on that. I am dubious, to say the least. That's a really strange thought for me to see CNN basically pushing folks to partake, if you will. I just find that it's such an incorrect assumption that the only two types of people you can have at your family table for your Thanksgiving dinner, well, they're either drunk or they're stoned. How about if they're neither? How about if maybe they had a cocktail, but they're not drunk? That does exist. That reality does exist. It just absolutely seems to be totally inappropriate what CNN's doing. But what do I know? I'm somebody who smoked his weight in college and made a choice not to have that part of my life. Do you disagree? Do you agree? 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Here is something that shows you the hypocrisy of the left side of the mainstream media. It is the way the reporting on something that Doug Burgum announced yesterday is being handled. This kind of surprised me, and then yet again, it did not. The story that Doug Burgum is changing the rules for people who visit our national parks. And how are they changing the rules? Well, we're making it more America First friendly. will be putting the emphasis on American citizens having better access to our national parks. Starting January 1st, changes to the entrance fees and the passes were announced yesterday. And the America the Beautiful Pass is going to be out there, and they have the special passes that will cover entrance fees for up to 2 motorcycles. But the new America the Beautiful Pass for non-residents is $250. It's cheaper for American citizens. As a matter of fact, entrance fee-free days will now only apply to American citizens and legal residents. Non-residents will be required to pay an entrance fee and applicable non-residence fees. And there are some parks that are going to have a surcharge of $100 for each non-resident of the U.S. entering the park. And so places like Acadia National Park, the Everglades National Park, et cetera, you can see this is all online. And this is beginning January 1st. America first. I don't have a problem with this. I'm very cool with this. Secretary Burgum announcing America First policies. America will pay American citizens and official residents will pay lower fees, and there are 10 days without any fees. But people who are here as guests will have to pay a higher rate. I don't have a problem with this. Do you? Do you think this is a problem? They've got these new pass designs. They look like the transit cards. If you've ever ridden the subway in New York City, the Easy Pass cards or the Metro cards in D.C., if you see them, they're the America the Beautiful, the little cards, the park passes, which I'm sure people will start collecting those. But I'm good with this. But if you visit a liberal outlet, it will mention the Trump administration is charging more for foreign visitors to enter our national parks. I don't have a problem with that at all. At all. I see the phones are engaging a little bit on this subject of the marijuana reporting. As I said, it felt like an infomercial on CNN. Bob is in the free state of Florida calling in. Bob, welcome to the Chris Plant Show. What's your take on this?
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, Michael. This is the time of year when the emergency rooms are packed full of elderly people that have been, are cannabis naive, so to speak, and they'll be partaking in that, and they'll just come in just totally stoned.
Well, and, now, Bob, I wonder, are they cannabis naive, or are they just, we might have been having a conversation off air here during the break, that the power of the cannabis today is significantly stronger than the cannabis I experienced when I was in college. Yes. So maybe...
That was my next point. In Florida, we have medical marijuana, and some of the THCs here are like 80%. And that's a lot.
Yeah, see, I think people don't understand the dosing. We are used to a certain reliability from the pharmaceutical industry when it comes to medications. And so that you understand 2 aspirin is for you, 85 milligrams or whatever it is. The baby aspirin is for the person who's trying to do it for their heart. But I don't know if there's a consistency among the product of marijuana. Look, we have on alcoholic beverages, we have proofing. You can tell how strong a drink is by what the proof is. But does that exist in the current recreational and or medical marijuana? I'm ignorant to this. I'm willing to learn. I'm not a user, but I just think that this is part of the problem with saying, hey, we've all voted to legalize pot. Everybody can have it now. And then we don't know how to detect when someone's driving 6,000 pounds of steel at 70 miles an hour down the highway, and they might be stoned to the bejesus belt, if you know what I'm saying. This seems crazy. Thank you, Bob. Good clarity. Yeah, I wonder if the Wall Street Journal will do a report on the emergency rooms that are affected by this surge of elderly patients who've had too much marijuana. Eswatini is in the crosshairs. I'll explain my fascination with Eswatini and a couple other moments from Democrats saying the darndest things. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It is The Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka sitting in for Chris on this Thanksgiving Eve, and I'll be back on the day after Thanksgiving where we can talk about all kinds of things that happened to you. We were just having a little conversation about what I consider to be CNN's push for marijuana to replace alcohol. Now, alcohol is not perfect, but I certainly don't think marijuana is, and I have questions. And so I threw it out there, and you, the vast and unpaid resource department, has responded at 888-630-9625. Renee is in Utah, one of my favorite states of the 50. Hello, Renee. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Michael. Thanks for stepping in for the great Chris Plant. I love you guys, and I wouldn't know what to do without you. But I got to throw my 2 cents into the ring. I've given every medication created by man as a nurse. And not one time ever did I put my hands on a person that was cannabis toxic. And yet I've had to tie people to the bedside because they're going through DTs from alcohol. Alcohol has been accepted and is really destroying more bodies than you would ever imagine. It starts with your GI tract and works from there. I am now in the food industry, and it bothers me that it's okay for you to come in and order 3 beers here in Utah, and you can even drink one and take 2 with you in a can. And I can watch you get behind that wheel of a car, and I know that you are impaired. But it's not okay for me to smoke a J and to walk in there and eat a hamburger. We need to really change the mindset. There is no toxicity from cannabis, and the cannabis out there is not 80%. It's 25 at most. I just really would like people to embrace it a little differently, open your eyes a little bit, because if most of the populace imbibed, whether it was a gummy or tincture or a salve, because it comes in many forms, and it's wonderful, the topical that you can use for aches and pains and inflammation. But if half the populace imbibed a little bit in some cannabis, I think some of the arguments would go away, and I think some handshakes and some hugs would come out.
Well,
what you guys do.
Renee, I hear the music, so you know we're up against the clock. But thank you for your opinion on that. Abuse of any substance is what seems to cause the problems, and we know overuse of alcohol has certain physical effects. I still don't want to be on the highway with people that are stoned. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. It feels like a Friday, doesn't it? Now, it's a Wednesday, but it is Thanksgiving Eve, so for a lot of people, it's kind of like a Friday. It's Mike Opelka in for Chris Plant, The Chris Plant Show, and I will return, God willing, on Friday, and we'll have some more fun. Oh, we've been talking about myriad subjects. There's some breaking news out of Georgia, where the a new prosecutor has said, we're not going to pursue the Fani Willis case. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Vince Colonnese taught me. Her name is Big Fat Fani Willis. Case against President Trump, the election interference case. And the executive director of Georgia's Prosecuting Attorneys Council, who knew they had this, a guy named Pete Skandalakis, is stepping into the Skandalakis, as we call it, and saying, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. So all the charges dropped. The whole case dropped. So I guess that's done. We can move on. Election interference case against Trump and others, done. Georgia is not served by pursuing this case, said the prosecutor. I'll get to the Eswatini story and with some of the craziness out of the mouth of the woman who is running in the special election next Tuesday in Nashville for a congressional seat to represent, I think it's the 7th district. But we had been talking about this marijuana thing. And some of you have called to respond to the nurse who called just a little bit ago. But there are myriad comments. I want to try and get to those and then still get to some of these other stories. Matt in Pennsylvania. Hello, Matt. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hello, Michael. You do a great job filling in for Chris. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, brother. God bless you. What's up?
I've been a police officer in the state of Pennsylvania for 29 years. I've worked local, state, and federal. And we see more impaired drivers with lower levels of alcohol, higher levels of drugs, and a lot of marijuana. And it does cause a lot of problems.
Is it due to the and I'm only speculating because I'm not a doctor here, the reduced physical reaction rates out of the pot users?
It absolutely is. In Pennsylvania, we call it DUI, driving under the influence. So that doesn't mean just alcohol. That means anything. If it's their own prescription, but they've taken something that says do not operate motor vehicle with it, it impairs your judgment. It impairs your timing. And just like you said, 6,000 pounds of steel and plastic going down the road, nothing separating most of the roads in this entire country but lines painted down the middle. It's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, it's sad. But then there's no way to test. Like you can do a breathalyzer and see if someone's been drinking and if they're over the limit. You can't do that with pot, can you?
Well, you can't, but we do test for blood, and we do have standard field sobriety tests. Those tests are for impairment. They're not just for alcohol. And you can tell when people are impaired, whether it's actually drugs or alcohol or whatever they're impaired with. You know what a normal driver responds like, you know how eyeballs react to light and follow stimulus. It's all set up that way.
Okay. Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. And thank you for educating us, but also thank you for 29 years wearing the badge. I know our buddy Dan Bongino used to say, no family of law enforcement feels comfortable until they hear their loved one coming home and taking off the Velcro of the vest, their bulletproof vest. That's the only time they can exhale. So we appreciate your service and being out there, sir. God bless you. Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. Let's go to John in Chicago. John, you've got something you need to educate me on here as regards to cannabis?
As far as your listeners in the conversation, I want people to Google CHS, cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome, CHS.
Okay.
Nobody in the public's talking about it, and many kids are dying from it. I almost lost my daughter. She OD'd 5 times from CHS, and every time we went to the emergency room, doctor right away was like, yeah, she's got CHS. And I was like, what is CHS? You know, we smoked weed back in the 80s. Nobody had this. But the dispensaries are so much stronger now, and they're waxing pure THC. So basically her body from brain to toe was covered in THC. And, OD'd on cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome. I brought this to a news outlet in New York to do a story about it, and they were aware of it, but said basically there's so much money involved, it's not going to go there. So people are so unaware of it, and if you talk to your friends or family about CHS, nobody's even heard of it.
Yeah,
so
I had not heard of it until today. Not aware.
Oh my, it's a huge problem. And like I said, it's terrible to watch your kid go through it. And it's weird because the only thing is, at first is a warm bath. It'll stop the vomiting and it'll calm them down. But it's an hour later, warm bath. And my wife and I had no idea what was going on. And then finally we were aware of what the symptoms were for CHS, and multiple times at the ER. I also tried to get the dispensaries to put a warning label, kind of like cigarettes.
Yeah.
If you walk in the dispensary and if you suffer from CHS, we can't sell to you. But CHS is so underground, and the media is not talking about it. If you Google it right now, you'll see how many kids have died from it. So, yes, there is medicinal purposes for marijuana. I agree. But it also is almost like an allergic reaction for some other people, which my daughter suffered from.
How is she?
She went to rehab.
How is your daughter, John?
Now, toward the end, she asked me for help, which was the best phone call in the world. And we brought her to rehabilitation for 5 weeks. When she came out, she's scot clean. Cold turkey, never again. But it was the worst experience for my wife and I. And I hope nobody ever has to go through it. But I guarantee you some of your listeners may know about CHS. And I want everybody to Google it and see it's a problem.
Thank you. Thank you, John.
About.
That's something I had no knowledge of. I'll be doing a deeper dive on it after the show today. Thank you, and God bless you and your family, and have a happy Thanksgiving, sir. Wow. I had no idea. Never heard of it. But that makes sense. You know, just because it's grown doesn't mean it can't be altered or given superpowers with additional chemicals, etc. And I talked to a gentleman from the Cleveland Clinic named Dr. Michael Roizen today, and before the show, and he said, you smoke one joint, because CNN was telling people, hey, the best way to, calm everybody down on Thanksgiving is just pass the joint around. Don't put it in the turkey. Don't drink it in the THC drinks. Just pass the joint. Every joint equals 8 cigarettes in terms of what you're doing to your lungs. Every single one. So check out the CHS as well as consider the smoke is not harmless. And the vaping does the same thing. But the vaping puts the same damage to your lungs. And also when you release the vapor into the room, the particulates hit the lungs of everybody else who's in that room. It's not an innocent issue. Let me grab one more on this. Mike in Bloomingdale. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, how are you? I just want to piggyback on your last caller and the nurse that I personally have been involved where my daughter had induced psychosis because there's another thing, your last caller just mentioned, there's another thing that adds to the potency, and it's called stacking. And it's when in a bong, you suck out the oxygen, but you leave the smoke in there. And that could go up to 80 to 90% if you take one hit. And unfortunately, a very, very bad situation occurred. And when you're a novice and you don't know what you're taking, it's like somebody loading up a drink of pure alcohol. There's no labeling of this stuff as far as, is it like alcohol 10%, 20%, a beer is 4%, absolute vodka is 100%. You don't know what you're getting in this crap. And if you get hit with stacking, you're at 90%.
Wow.
And I can't tell you how damaging it is for a couple families that I don't want to bring up their names, but I do think you have to educate the public on the severity of this marijuana. It is not your stuff back in the 70s. And if you want to talk to we've been involved with Dan Buffington. He's out of Texas. And if you want to learn more about this psychosis and you want to learn more about the chemical reaction of stacking, I can't tell your audience how much education is not forthcoming, and it will tear families apart. I thank you for letting me speak my
Thank you, Mike. God bless
story.
You. The whole reason this issue irritated me on CNN is I felt like they were presenting one side of this, and they were doing it as if it was an infomercial, about cannabis. And I just think that we need to understand there is much more to this, much more to this. I need to step aside from this topic because I promised this. The story about Eswatini, and there was a story that the New Yorker is highlighting about a gentleman named Orville Itoria, a Jamaican national who'd lived in New York City for nearly 50 years, ended up being shackled and put on an ice flight to Eswatini. And Itoria, the Jamaican national, was quoted as saying, "It helped me imagine how slaves might have felt going to land in shackles and chains." Yeah, well, the interesting story here is that the New Yorker is not telling the whole story. Orville Itoria has multiple serious felony convictions, including armed robbery and murder. He actually had a lawful U.S. permanent resident status, which, they get taken away once you commit felonies. If you are a green card holder and you break the law with serious felonies, I don't know, like murder, serious assault, armed robbery, you lose that status. So while Mr. Itoria may have been here initially on a green card legally, turned out to be a bad person and now is being sent to an ICE detention facility in Eswatini. So I have little or absolutely zero empathy for this guy. Not even close. So for anybody who's upset about the people that ICE is picking up and tossing out of the country, I don't have any room for any sympathy or empathy for you. And then there is Athlyn Bain. Is that the name? Athlyn, this woman who's running for an open congressional seat in Nashville. She's suddenly in the public eye. And this seat, which will be voted on a special election next week, we're starting to learn about this congressional candidate through a lot of her posts. And she's really an unusual person because she's now denying everything that she said. She's kind of walking back and saying, wait a minute, what? Afton, that's her name, Afton Bain, which is kind of a strange name, but whatever. She was this candidate, and in 2020, she actually said the area that she's trying to represent now, she hated it. Cut 13, Michael.
I've been heavily involved with the Nashville mayoral race because I hate the city, I hate the bachelorettes, I hate the pedal taverns, I hate country music, I hate all of the things that make Nashville, apparently, an it city to the rest of the country.
So can you imagine being in Nashville and telling people you want to be their elected official, but you hate Nashville, you hate the multi-billion-dollar industry that actually fuels Nashville? She went on MS-13 on Monday. That's what their new name is now. It's not MS now. It's MS-13 now. She went on with Catherine Rampell to talk about some of her social media posts from the past.
Representative, in 2020, you made some tweets that have since been deleted that were very critical of police. You said in those since deleted tweets that the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department should be dissolved. Another cheered on a teachers union saying that defund the police should be a requirement for schools reopening. And another saying good morning, especially to the 54% of Americans that believe burning down a police station is justified. 2020 was obviously a very fraught year. Do you still stand by those comments? And if not, is there anything you want to clarify?
Gee, I wonder if she would like to clarify her desire to burn down police stations or defund the police. I wonder what she has to say about that.
I'm not going to engage in cable news talking points, but what I will say is that our communities need solutions. We need local people deciding, solving local problems with local solutions. And that's not the overreach of a federal government or state government of which we are dealing with in Nashville and our cities across the state of Tennessee.
A little bit of a word salad. She doesn't want to defend her positions. She's just like, you guys don't understand me. So there's even more stuff that popped up. And today I heard the candidate from some of her previous statement talking about how she wants to help out and allow home abortions.
Groups on the ground will continue to provide training in terms of self-managed abortions. And so instead of going to a doctor, because we won't have any doctors that provide abortions, how do you do it at home?
So, we're not going to have any doctors. She's predicting we're not going to have any doctors. So we're going to teach people how to do home abortions. Are you going to be able to buy your Sony My First Abortion kit? Is that what you're talking about? And she has also more madness. I hope she has to address this in the media, talking about how men can have babies.
As birther, as women who can give birth,
men and women who can give birth.
Wait a minute. She called herself a birther. I think she meant birthing person. You know, because a birther used to be somebody who thought that Barack Obama was not born in America. We used to call those people birthers. But she's kind of saying that she herself is a birther.
As birther, you know, as women who can give birth, men and women who can give birth, we could maybe leverage that as collective bargaining. We can really leverage collective bargaining when it comes to having children in this country. And so, for example, like, I'm not going to give birth until the United States government concedes ABCD.
So use your ability to conceive a child as a bargaining chip. Got it. Interesting. She's up for election next week. Tuesday. Nashville. You have an interesting choice to make. It's Mike Opelka. I'm in for Chris Plant today and Friday, God willing. We'll come back and put a bow on the show next on the Chris Plant Show. It is the Chris Plant Show for another few seconds. It's Mike Opelka. I have been so honored to be here, to be part of the Chris Plant program on Thanksgiving Eve. Big thanks to Michael Piercy for being here, to Jasmine for handling the incredible phone traffic today. We had lively, spirited conversations about many topics, and we will try and do it again on Friday after Thanksgiving. So don't eat too much, don't drink too much, don't smoke too much, don't chew too many gummies, whatever. When we'll try and get back and talk about it. Hopefully, and I'm really very hopeful about this, I believe we are on the cusp of a possible big peace deal between Russia and Ukraine. Now, one issue could crater that. But just reading the tea leaves with President Trump, it certainly looks like he's feeling this and he doesn't want to jinx it by agreeing to a meeting until everything is ready to go. So let's hope that happens, because it would be a good thing not just for that part of the world. It'd be a good thing for the United States of America. It'd be a good thing for the president, I believe, to have put another peace deal together. We'll see what happens. It's still a long ways off. But for the time being, I want to thank you again for being here today. We'll monitor everything and we'll reconvene on Friday and try and have a little fun and kick off the weekend, the second weekend, as it were. Till next time, Mike Opelka reminding you, testudo, my friends, testudo.